GMOs, genetically modified organisms, can they cause cancer?
I ran the Express Lane. I'm a special project coordinator for FDA from USDA as a joint USDA FDA. He goes, so I can tell you the Express Lane is real.
They'll take something apart and they say, look, this is obviously lab-grown meat that they're sneaking into our food supply. And they have no idea the lab-grown meat is still so stinking expensive that, for the most part, especially in domesticated animal production, chicken, beef, pork, that sort of thing, that there's no way that they're just going to put it in your $3.99 a pound chicken breasts. That's just not what they're going to do.
The average American that I've seen has about a half a teaspoon to a teaspoon worth of microplastics stored in their brain that you've picked up from everything from the clothes you're wearing to the food that you're eating. Well, hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 8 of the Fenceline. And my good friend Brad Good, we're one stoplight town, but I grew up, we didn't have a stoplight. I mean, a blinking light. We didn't have much. And I didn't have a stoplight.
Pretty fancy. We had a blinking light, but we were also on a party line.
Yeah, if you've never had the privilege of being on a party line and having to listen to your aunt and uncle's conversations and.
We had a neighbor that no matter when she needed to use the phone, it was always an emergency because she knew that if you didn't surrender the phone line to her, then she'd call the sheriff on you. So no matter what it was an emergency.
She needed to call Betty Thelma Lou and let her know what was going on.
She had to tell everybody what we'd been talking about since she was listening on our conversation.
That's a fact. That's a fact. Oh, well, welcome back. And man, the Texas heat is upon us. And
it's summertime. Whether you want it to be or not.
I mean, I put on big boy pants today, but I'm not happy about it because I'm still getting adjusted from that time we spent in Montana. It was, I don't know what Montana winters are like, but I fully endorse Montana summers compared to here.
I'm sure Montana as a state will be excited to hear that.
Yeah, well, I guess in the grand scheme of things, I made some great friends out there, Secretary of Agriculture of the state, great lady. And she's talking about here, and I said, well, we have 300,000 more people in the county I live in than your state. And they're like, wow.
But that's changing pretty rapidly. I mean, the influx of people into Montana, the population growth they've seen there is.
Oh, yeah. They've had like 100,000 people moving there in the last 5 years. It's a boom town.
And the Taco Bell in Butte has a bar in it.
Or so what? What?
There's a Taco Bell in Butte. Hometown of Evel Knievel, by the way. Yeah. And there's the big Poison Lake up over the top.
Yeah, I was
about
Butte. 60, 70 miles south of Butte.
But yeah, there's a kind of Taco Bell called Taco Bell Cantina, not a sponsor. And the Taco Bell Cantina, there's like 10 of them in the United States, and one of them is in Butte, Montana. Apparently, the miners like to have a gordita crunch, cheesy gordita crunch, and a whiskey.
They like to consume some alcohol in Montana.
They're not.
You think they got that special lettuce at that Taco Bell over there? I think they got that fixed.
The views of Matt Hamilton are not necessarily those of Dusty Abney.
I read it on the internet. It's got to be true. It's got to be true. Well, yeah. Well, have you been traveling anywhere this week?
I mean, just the regular stuff. Just mostly in the state this week. So
yeah,
a little Austin, a little Fort Worth. Nothing terrible. No airplanes.
No.
Nobody with blue gloves touched me inappropriately under federal law.
My viewpoint's what? Oh my gosh, TSA, you're on the special list now.
Well, I paid to be on one special list, but there's a different special list that I'll be on now.
I've noticed I seem to go faster through the regular folk line. That pre-pass line is.
A friend of ours is in the audience today, the mighty Ian Hastings, and Ian used to have pre-check, and when he and I worked together, he would go through on pre-check, and I went through the unwashed masses.
I thought he was on the adults with special needs pass.
The views of Matt Hamilton are not necessarily those of Dusty Abney. So Ian would go through on TSC pre-check, and then he would set a timer. And while I was in line with the unwashed masses, Ian would tell me, you have now been in line for 15 minutes. One time we flew through Orlando. We're flying back from Orlando. Orlando is not the happiest place on earth. when you're trying to get back from Orlando, what you've got is a lot of parents with PTSD, kids with sunburn who are tired of Mickey Mouse and are letting everybody know it. So everybody's got a 1,000-yard stare in the TSA line. So I stood in one spot and didn't take a step for 42 minutes. You know how I knew that? Because somebody was kind enough to tell me about that.
That sounds exactly like somebody I know.
They brought the magic dog out. And we all walked past the magic dog, which has nothing to do with Disney. We walked past the magic dog, didn't go through the nudo scanner, because who knows how many naked pictures the federal government has of me. Walked past the magic dog, and it was all okay. And I thought to myself, because my wife, the original Dr. Abney, has taught me that when I'm in the TSA line, shut up. Don't talk to nobody. Answer every question with a yes or no. Don't make eye contact. Just shuffle your feet and get through it. And don't go to Guantanamo Bay. But when I walked through the line and finally got back connected with Ian, I said, why can't we just walk past the magic dog every time?
All the time.
And,
yeah.
And he didn't know. But
well, have you ever been thrown out of Canada?
Not lately.
Okay. Well, you got that over him.
I barely got into Canada one time.
You got they're persnickety. They're a little particular.
Yeah, they're a little grouchy.
We did learn. I did go to Canada since Ian's here. We figured out the cheat code. So they really give you grief going into Canada. Say these magic words. What brings you to Canada? We're here to go fishing. You're untouchable.
My first trip to Canada,
pass.
I went through security through customs. And what brings you to Canada? Well, I'm here for work. Oh. Could you step over here, sir? And I did can you step over here, sir, like 4 times. And I ended up in this room with these 2 women. What brings you to Canada? Well, the same thing I told the other 4 guys. I'm here for work. Well, what kind of work do you do? And I said, well, I'm a ruminant nutritionist. What's that? And I said, well, I'm a dietitian for cows. And they said, well, I'm sure we have many fine ruminant nutritionists here in Canada. And I said, apparently not, because here I am. Could you step over here, sir? So an hour and a half later, I get through there, and the guy that's supposed to pick me up, he said, was your flight delayed? And I said, no. And I said, I was talking to the nice people in customs. Oh, you didn't tell them you were here for work, did you?
Oh.
Yes, I did, because you didn't tell me not to.
When they asked him that, they said, well, I'm sure we have people in Canada that can do this. He said, well, they flew my happy ass all the way here from Texas, so I guess not. And that's when he found the Canadian penalty box.
Yeah.
And so you were in the hour and a half. Apparently, an hour and a half is how long you get detained when you go to Canada and you're there for work. So, next time
that was pre 9/11. I mean, pre-COVID. So not quite pre 9/11.
Well, just tell them you're there for fishing. I'm here to go fishing.
Now you tell me. Thanks for nothing, Matt.
Well, the more you know.
Next time I go.
The more you know. And that's what we're doing. We're here to educate you, not just on how to get into Canada without getting the special glove treatment.
Not that we're advocating any kind of illegal behavior.
I would say just plan on fishing if it's for 15 minutes. Plan. Just plan on.
It's never a bad plan.
I don't care how long you're in Canada. I don't care if you go fishing in a wishing well so that you can look them straight in the eye and say, I came here to fish. I may only get
They're not going to take me, but I
only get to go fishing for 15 minutes and work for 4 days, but I am here to fish. And,
hard-learned lesson.
Now you know. But so we're 8 episodes in, and we were asking every week for people send us comments, send us questions, and I've got some questions on the table. You've got some things, so we're going to kind of see how many of these we can work through today to work through the things that America and maybe Canada and maybe even foreign countries like Arkansas want to learn more about.
If those people in Arkansas had internet, they'd be really upset right now.
They'd be so mad. They got 2G. 2G strings. And they use it to floss their tooth. That's where the toothbrush was invented, is in Arkansas.
We were doing so well until Ian
That's why it's not called the teeth brush. My brother-in-law's from Arkansas. There are hundreds of great people in Arkansas.
Your brother-in-law's from Arkansas?
Yeah, I don't know what that says.
Can we draw that family tree, or is it just one line, or
just not
a lot of forks?
Just pour paint and let it run downhill. There's a few. My brother-in-law.
We may need to edit.
He's the greatest. He's the greatest guy on earth. He's the greatest guy on earth. Hey, so you will go first. You go first. I've got a list. What's Amy, our great co-producer, wrangler, Amy is here throwing these at us.
Yeah, she's been nice enough to type these up and put them far enough away from the table that we can see them without putting our old man glasses on. Large font's a wonderful thing.
She asked me, said, "How big do you want me to print these?" I said, "Big enough that they'll still fit on the page."
Yeah,
just keep going bigger until they don't fit on the page and go down one size. That's how big I want the font.
Well, we're in your place. Why don't you?
All right. So, hey, this has been lately. I've been asked many, many times. It's on TikTok, so it has to be true. And we're getting
not just the internet, but TikTok.
This is as you think of the school bus, right? So the front row, that's like that's like Instagram. That's the elementary school, and then the middle of the bus is Facebook. And then the back of the bus is the dark web. That's where the 13-year-olds rule the world.
I'm not sure that TikTok is the dark web.
It's the dark web.
You can't hire a hitman on TikTok.
Have you tried? I don't know.
Do you want a hitman from TikTok?
I'm not saying that on this podcast.
I don't think that's going to. I'll get you some better websites.
All right. You heard. I'm going to watch out what I say. Okay. So this was seedless produce. So apparently we're going to all seedless produce.
According to TikTok.
According to people asking me questions who've watched videos on TikTok. So the government can control our entire food supply, and we're not going to be able to feed ourselves because we're only getting seedless food in the grocery stores. This has nothing to do with that the American consumer doesn't want to pick watermelon seeds out of watermelon, and that they created a hybrid watermelon so that it doesn't have seeds in it. It has nothing to do with that. There's all government control, so we can't grow our own food, to which I'm asking people, do you have a garden, and when's the last time you kept seeds out of a watermelon for your garden?
Well, and is it the billionaires or the government this time that are controlling us?
Let's just put them together.
Column A, column B.
That's a.
All the billionaires I know don't care if there's seeds in watermelons or not. But it's pretty patently ridiculous because the funniest thing about that is what you just said is that it is a direct result of consumer demand.
We say it every week. Ask for it, pay for it. We'll produce it. So America has said, we want. I tell you, it's like, well, what about they took all the bones out of the chicken? That's a conspiracy. It's all boneless chicken meat now. Like there's no bones. There's no bones left in the chicken. How are the chickens going to live? They're controlling the food supply. They made boneless chickens. They're chicken blobs.
You can't plant those chickens and grow more chickens. They ain't got any bones.
Man, there's an Aggie joke I want to tell so bad.
You're not going to offend me. I'm a Red Raider.
So there's this Texas Aggie. He graduated A&M, and we got back home, family farm, and he heard about the poultry industry was really exploding in the late 70s, early 80s. And a way to make the most money per acre was chickens. So he planted 100 acres of chickens. They all died. He said, well, crap, I messed up. I planted them head down. Hell, messed up. Got to plant them head up. So he planted them head up. They all died. Called down A&M, said, Professor, I'm trying to get a crop of chickens going. I planted 100 acres. I messed up, planted them head down. I planted 100 acres head up. They all died. He said, what am I doing wrong? He said, son, I can't tell you a thing without a soil sample.
That's a good one. I got to tell a story on you.
Oh.
So we filmed podcasts a month or so ago, and you were doing a Steak 101 class here at Local Yokel. And I'd never gotten to watch you do a Steak 101 class. So we had a timeline. We had to finish filming the podcast, and we, for some reason, barely made it. I'm not sure why.
Weird.
I'm surprised we made it at all, but we got it done. And then you had to go directly in there and do Steak 101, which there's a stage. I don't know. I've never seen anybody but Matt Hamilton on that stage.
Oh, there's lots of
maybe you allow other people on there occasionally, but as your opening get to know you kind of a deal, you played fight songs, and you asked people that were from that school to to kind of clap along or sing along or whatever it was. And I knew you were going to get to Tech where I went to school. And I think you know this, but I'm not sure. I was the Mass Rider.
The Red Raider.
It's not the Red Raider. It's the Mass Rider. It's very particular. So that's the guy that dresses like Zorro and has the flat hat and the mask and all that.
A grown man in a costume. Okay, got it.
I wasn't quite grown then, but probably weighed almost as much as I do now, but not nearly as mature as I am now.
Sure.
Mature. And I thought you would play the fight song. That's what I thought you would play. So when I was the masked rider at the beginning of the football game, you lead the team onto the field, and they play this music. It's called the horse music. It goes bum bum, and when it hits that second note, you go, and it gets pretty hyped up. There's 53,000 people, or there were at the time when I was there. It's a big deal, you know. It's pretty exciting. You're going to ride a live horse through the middle of this football game and not run over anybody and not get bucked off and not fall off and et cetera, et cetera.
What could go wrong?
What could go wrong? So
I played the wrong song.
My daughter and I are sitting out there watching you do your thing, and you're killing it. You got the crowd fired up, and you get to Texas Tech, and I think you're going to play the fight song.
What's the one that the internet told me? I've been playing it for like 15 years.
That's the horse music. Okay. And so the fight song, I wanted to ride the horse. I didn't really care that much about the school. I didn't care much about football. I had to read the fight song off the scoreboard to know what the words were when I was the guy wearing the mask. So you play the horse music. And when that second note hit, the adrenaline dump I got out of that, that's been, I don't know, I was 98, 99, I was the mask rider.
You didn't have to tell that.
It's been a while. It's been well over a quarter century. The adrenaline dump I got out of that
That's awesome.
Just shocked the snot out of me.
Well,
I'd sit there just quivering like,
you were wearing tortillas
something.
were about to start flying.
If I'd had a tortilla, I'd have thrown that something all the way across the deal. I'll tell you one more quick story, and we get edit it out if we need to. The year before I was masked rider, and then several years after, I was on the horse safety team. So we were there to make sure that the horse had a safe place to go. We were there to protect the horse from people.
Right.
Kind of like Secret Service agents in that way. And so when at kickoff, and I don't know that a lot of people know this, but at Texas Tech, somebody said years ago, the only thing that ever came out of Lubbock that was any good was a tortilla. And so it became tradition to throw tortillas on the kickoff and almost on any kickoff. And the student section is the major place the tortillas came from. And I always said that because we used to have to pick those up because they were in the way. You didn't want the horse to step on one and slip. So we would help everybody else pick those up after kickoff. And you could tell who threw it, what their major was by what the tortilla looked like. If they were more of a business guy, you know, or kind of a frat guy, there'd be like a corner bitten off the tortilla. But the engineering students figured out that if you bit the center out of the tortilla like a Frisbee, they could make it almost all the way to the center of the 50-yard line at the stadium.
Of course they did.
So the year before I was masked rider, when I was an assistant to the masked rider, who was Becky McDougall at the time. Hi, Becky. We went to Baylor, to Ian's daughter's alma mater, and we were by the student entrance, and it's a private school, right? And so here's all these kids with these 200 packs of Tia Rosa tortillas. At Tech, you got to put those in your shirt. You got to smuggle those in. They're just carrying them in two hands at a time, and those security guards are just passing by. These poor kids from these state schools, they got to bring their snacks with them. This is just terrible. They're letting like 60,000 tortillas into the stadium, and we don't even run because we're at a foreign stadium. But it goes kickoff, and at one corner of the student section, here come like 30 tortillas, and you could see the mental math. Oh hell, we got to go up there and get those. Go confiscate all those.
Oh, yeah, somebody didn't get the memo.
No, but they learned fast.
They were like, oh, these poor, they're bringing in food. Like,
at least state school kids are having it rough.
My gosh.
I don't even have any mustard put on these.
Oh, bless her hearts. Bless her hearts.
Yeah.
What's one of your top topics there that we've been asked to talk about?
I feel like we're on Family Feud. Number one answer.
Survey says.
I got a couple of opinions about this. Matt, can GMOs, genetically modified organisms, can they cause cancer?
I don't know that we know genetically modified organisms could cause cancer.
That's a very scientific answer.
I definitely think that there is some data coming out. You look at the lawsuit in Australia that's been settled, and that maybe some of these genetically modified organisms, or they overuse one particular herbicide that is now proven to be carcinogenic, and now we have higher levels of that carcinogenic herbicide from a company headquartered in England and no longer under trademark that makes a very specific glyphosate salt that is carcinogenic, and I think the data is starting to come together to prove that.
Okay, now back up. I'm going to go a little Matlock on you here. We ask a very specific question. We ask if GMOs cause cancer. We're not talking about glyphosate. We're talking about GMOs.
But the purpose of having that genetically modified organism is so you can use that particular chemical
right
So
in that particular case, so a Roundup Ready soybean.
you said the
corn,
R word. Oh my gosh! My God, the views of Dusty Abney are not the views of Matt Hamilton.
It's only a matter of
Yokel.
time.
One time, finally, I got to say it.
1-7.
One time. So, well, but on that, okay, here's a great question. Let's you and I sponsor a study. Why don't I just won the lottery, or maybe I got hit by a big truck? Either way, I've come in some money.
Redneck Lotto.
Let's you and I pay for a study on this.
On whether or not GMOs cause cancer.
Let's just write the check and hire your state university to do it. Can we do that?
Can we do that?
We cannot.
Why
We
can't we?
cannot. We have to have the written permission of the patent holder of the genetically modified organism that we want to test, and they get complete oversight, and they get to decide whether that ever sees the light of day or not because they own the patent.
Well, that's in the United States, so why can't we do it in Micronesia?
Because you and I, we want enough money to do the study, but not enough money to fight the legal battle. We didn't get enough money, but it's worldwide trademark. But this is a worldwide trademark and patent, so you'd have to go find companies. I know of a couple off the record studies that were done in Canada with carrier pigeons that were showing, now whether it was the GMO or the glyphosate, significant issues with the livers and kidneys of carrier pigeons.
Matt, carrier pigeons have been extinct since the 1920s.
Well, the homing pigeons. The homing pigeons.
Okay.
Sorry, homing pigeons.
Or a scientist.
I didn't
wanna make sure we're
realize
doing
that there was a genetic. I didn't know that carrier pigeon's different than a homing pigeon.
Well, yeah, they're dead. They're gone. They were they were extirpated and then extinct after that.
Extirpated.
That means they were extinct in a certain area and then totally extinct after that.
Well, the more you know.
Yeah, science.
Dun, dun, dun.
So
Where's the little shoes?
there are
Science.
there are literal reams of data on GMOs. And
I submit
none
to
of
you
the
those
papers
reams
I've
of
ever
data
seen.
have been heavily influenced and controlled by the patent holder.
That's certainly possible, but
by law, they get to decide whether you see that study or not.
I need to look into that a little further. But as far as I know, I've read hundreds of cattle studies that use GMO corn because pretty much all the cattle corn. Now let's be really careful about our terms here. The sweet corn you buy at the store is not the same corn that gets grown in Iowa.
Which they now have
a million of acres.
But they have a genetically modified sweet corn now, so we've engineered.
Does it make your pea smell funny, or what does it do?
That's asparagus, and that's mercaptan.
Only for about 70% of the population.
So this is
gotta have that enzyme
they've engineered a bug enzyme into sweet corn. So there's a bug that excretes a specific enzyme that other bugs stay away from. So they now have bug resistance, specifically
the BT gene.
BT gene. They now have BT sweet corn. So that's different than the chemical resistant corn.
Yeah, but for the most part, I guess my point there was that most of the corn, when you drive through Iowa in August,
field corn,
and you can't see more than 3 feet off the road, and you feel a little claustrophobic, that's all going to be yellow dent field corn,
which is livestock production,
mostly
ethanol production,
or ethanol, yeah,
or very little
or both. First one, then the other.
One, then the other. Byproduct. See episode 5.
I would answer that there is, I haven't seen conclusive evidence that GMOs cause cancer. Now, the other fuzzy thing there is, what's a GMO? What makes something a GMO? As an example, is a dosh hound, a weenie dog, or a wiener dog, depending on where you're from, is that a genetically modified organism?
That's a selectively bred animal. So I think a hybrid is not a genetically modified organism. That's a cross.
Okay.
So if
it's done through breeding versus through,
I think when we play God and we go under the microscope, and we take some genome material from something else and put it into a plant or organism, that's genetically modified organism. And people really realize that there's a lot of hybrids.
Sure.
A lot
that goes back to our seedless
breeding
watermelon.
Right. They didn't GMO a seedless watermelon. They just selected. They found that if I cross this watermelon, it produces. They still produce a seed. They just barely produce a seed. They produce a non-viable seed.
Yeah.
It's going to be a non-viable seed.
That's why if you really like a tomato, which is probably not going to happen because most tomatoes are made for longevity and not for flavor. But if you plant that tomato in your garden,
You have to plant heirloom tomatoes.
you're probably not going to get a viable tomato out of that plant because
Correct.
a lot of the stuff that we get at the store is a hybrid.
So,
But when a hybrid's not a GMO, I agree with
So I would say in the history of, depending on your worldview, the last 7,000 years of us eating food, or the wrong worldview of 100 million years. So in the history of written history, GMOs are 1 second old. So there's a wonderful government approved product. They just got the plant cleaned up there in Denison, Texas. It's a great product. It's completely government approved, called asbestos. It's a great insulation and pipe. It's wonderful. Nothing wrong with that. Whoops. Turns out something wrong with that. It's okay. We'll move on to that. We're going to drive this truck through the neighborhoods and spray and kill these mosquitoes. And everybody can ride their bicycles and follow the DDT truck because there's no problems with that. And then, whoops, there's something wrong with that.
Okay, now are we going to talk about Silent Winter, the book the lady wrote?
2,4-D residual.
No, not 2,4-D. DDT.
Oh, DDT.
DDT.
I thought you said Silent Winter or Silent Spring.
Silent Spring.
Silent Spring.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I had read pretty recently that book has been debunked and that was a very specific entrance because that was the thin eagle eggs, right? Where the eagles didn't make their eggs quite as thick, that hadn't been quite.
Was it DDT or 2,4-D?
That was DDT.
Okay.
DDT is a pesticide, 2,4-D is a herbicide.
Right. I'm confused on the book. I know the difference.
I ain't that kind of doctor, but I do know that.
Gloves.
Yeah. So I think we can chalk that up as a slight difference of opinion on that one.
I think that we could probably agree that we're very young into this, and time will tell.
That's true. I think back to we talked about my dad in the last episode, but my dear old dad always talked about that our horses cribbed a lot in their stalls for some reason, chewing on the wood their stalls were made out of. And my dad would paint that with creosote. And he talked about the good kind of creosote that you couldn't get anymore because, and I quote, somebody drowned a rat in it and decided it caused cancer, unquote. So, I think definitely there's a dose makes the toxin argument to be made there. A lot of the stuff that makes it to our table, let's look at GMO corn and soybeans. That doesn't directly make it to our table. And those proteins and whatnot remaining intact and the starches through animal production, that's just not going to happen.
Yeah, those making it through the animal to you. I mean, I've seen plenty of data. The pseudoestrogen in soy, yes. Pseudoestrogen in an animal that's been fed soy, no.
Yeah.
It's not coming through.
We can get to
we got a long
agreement
time.
on
We
that.
got to knock out this list. Here's my second on my list.
Oh, this was number
second
2?
on my list, but number 1 in the hearts and souls of my friends. Beta agonist growth regulators, level 1, level 2. So these are steroids. And this is like the first time
I met it's not a steroid.
I'm sorry, so
not a steroid.
It's the family of steroids.
Because a steroid is a hormonal product. It's not a steroid.
So well, then tell us how beta agonists manipulate cellular growth and explain that to us, Dr. Abney.
Beta agonists
level 1, level 2
are FDA regulated medicated feed additives that can be added to cattle feeds and swine feeds, if I remember right. I don't know much about those animals that only have one stomach like pigs and chickens and people. But I do know about cattle. And so those, for the last, I'd say 20 years, plus or minus, have been legal to feed to cattle and swine in the United States. You may know ractopamine, lubiprostone, there was a couple of zilpaterol. Those are some of the ones that have been used. So
is zilpaterol, did that go no longer on the market under the name Zilmax? Was that zilpaterol?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So those products, what they do is in cattle that are long days on feed, they've been on feed for quite a while, they're towards the end of the feeding period. At that point, they're not very efficient at all. The conversion we talked about 2 or 3 episodes ago begins to really get high. It takes more feed.
Diminishing marginal return.
Exactly. We're starting to tail out there a little bit. And so by feeding these beta agonist molecules, what we see is a pretty remarkable change in protein accretion by the muscles of that animal. And we can see an additional 20 to 45 or maybe even 50 pounds of gain in the last
14 days.
28 to 56
Magic.
days. It is kind of magical. It's magical
Swells
science.
them right up.
Now, we're also talking about a 1,500-pound animal at this point. So an additional 20 to 50 pounds of gain is not huge, but the kind of gain it is protein accretion. So we're actually gaining muscle, where in that part of the feeding period, we're mostly gaining fat. So the ability to put additional muscle on that animal in that late part of the feeding period is extremely efficient, and it's extremely valuable from a carcass and pounds of meat standpoint.
So the difference I've seen a lot less. It's a protein gain and a lot more water. That a lot of that added is water, which I understand.
I would disagree with you on that, because it doesn't change dressing percent. It doesn't change any of those other metrics in the animal that you'd see. That would show up like in yield, grade, and shrink and those things if that were the case.
Well, we see it on shrink. So the product that we mentioned, Zilmax, no longer out there. Level 2 beta agonist. That we were seeing brisket shrink rates tied specifically to that product where the moisture was cooking out of. There are certain muscles will react differently to those drugs, and a brisket was one of them. National average size of briskets it spiked up magically at the peak use of that drug for Temple Grandin kind of has is the reason that drug probably got pulled. Well, and there was one gentleman who was abusing it. There's always somebody abusing it, right? When you use it to the point the hooves come off the cows, that's always good stuff. Makes them non-ambulatory to come into the plant. But we saw a 2-pound national average spike in brisket weights in that. It peaked out and then came back down, but we saw cook weights of brisket coming off the not change. So, not a fan. How many other countries in the world? Europe use beta agonist growth regulators?
Is that what we're going to do now? Is compare the United States to Europe? Which side of the road do they drive on? Do they have the Second Amendment there? I mean, that's a little bit of a false comparison.
Just because they're wrong on some things.
Because within our topic here, I'll see people talk about on YouTube Shorts or whatever, Twitter, wherever I may be watching stuff, and they'll talk about this specific dye. They don't even allow this in Europe, and it turns out that our regs on it are more stringent than Europe's are. So
for
that particular thing, Europe is really selective about whether it's implant growth hormones, which are different than beta agonists, or beta agonists, or different medications and withdrawal times. Theirs are pretty different than ours are.
And I will, so that everybody's not right on everything. And it is funny, like Raptamine.
I mean, we'll let you go live in Europe if you want to live in Europe.
250 years of America is looking pretty good to me.
My people did get on a boat for a reason.
Yeah, so my family left there and came here for very good reasons. Hey, I'm not saying we can still improve here. Okay, we can still improve here.
I think that's the whole point.
But it is funny, like they don't have it all right because like Raptamine in pigs, we don't do, but they do. So I think that's one thing.
And we did for a while, and we still do in cattle.
So, but
and it's still a great molecule.
I am not a fan of beta agonist growth regulators. Again, I think there's the studies. There's not true third-party studies out there that are really independent.
But those have gone through FDA scrutiny to be approved.
Oh, well, you had me there. I mean, hell, if the FDA approved it, it's got to be good enough for me.
That is not an easy process, and there is a lot of safety data that goes into there. I'm not going to tell you that just because the FDA says it's good, that it's 300% safe. But it's not just like a couple of hillbillies in overalls with one overall.
So we always
strap buckled decide that it was okay.
I came from the chemical industry, and we always joked that we had the express lane. And I would make that joke in my Steak 101. And I had a guy come up to me one day, he goes, "Hey, you're joking about the express lane." I ran the express lane. I was a special project coordinator for FDA from USDA, as a joint USDA FDA. He goes, "So I can tell you the express lane is real."
Those did not go through the express lane. In fact, do you know what the actual claim is, the FDA claim for the most popular beta agonist today, which is sort of a beta agonist, but for the purposes of our discussion, we'll call it a beta agonist.
What is the claim?
The claim is actually for environmental purposes.
Oh, I do love this one.
It's for the reduction of nitrogen into the atmosphere from the animal because we're accreting more of that nitrogen into the animal. It's not for weight gain.
Close one eye, squint the other one. That's right. We're saving the world by cutting the time on feed and increasing the weight out of the cattle, to heck with whatever residuals
That's
might
what
be
the
in
regulation
the meat.
says.
Oh, I mean, the government doesn't get anything wrong ever. So I'm here to blindly trust
in
the FDA.
today's beef supply climate where we are today. Can we afford to give up if we assume that everybody has our best interests at heart? Can we afford to give up that kind of weight gain? Because I would think today in commercial feedlots, my scientific wild ass guess would be that at least 70% of those animals are on a beta agonist.
That's because we export. It was 80%. I think it's down to 72%. It's last number I saw. That's because we export. Our export market's growing, and we got to have those beta agonist free animals for export.
But is that more of a trade barrier or is it a science barrier?
That's some other countries being smarter than us.
China's smarter than us?
Yes, because they're on the AU standard, same as the EU standard. You know, hey, China doesn't mind poisoning you; they don't want to poison themselves.
I would say that that's more of a roadblock to
a trade barrier.
Trade barrier, yeah. We might have a difference of opinion there.
Might. That's why we started doing this, because we knew we were going to have a difference of opinion.
Ian's so excited right now. I wish you could see him. It's a little distracting.
Yeah, but Ian's big excited. It's just everyone else is a little excited. He's a little guy.
My next question.
We're really going to get through all these topics.
This says bees take. This says 55K, and in my world, K is 1,000. Bees take 55,000 miles of flight to make 1 pound of honey.
Yeah, so that would be one bee would be impossible to make that. So
they're teaming up there. Do you think that K is supposed to be in there?
Yes, that's 55,000 miles.
Really?
That's 100%.
That's a lot of little bees.
They will fly out up to 5 miles. 3 miles out is pretty standard. They cover a 3 mile radius. They'll go out as far as 5 miles. So there's a 3 foot, 3 mile. You cannot move. If you move a beehive you can't move it 3 feet. They'll get lost.
They don't remember where it is. They can't do their little dance.
And you can't move it 3 miles. If you have to move it more than 3 miles, or they'll try to go back to the other place. You can, if at night you can move a beehive 3 feet, but a honeybee only produces like 1/8 of a tablespoon of honey in its entire life. So it takes a lot of bees flying a lot of miles.
And they're hugely necessary. We've got to have bees and other pollinators.
They pollinate. They play such a huge role, but they are just amazing creatures. We've learned a lot about bees in the last year. We put bees on our property. A bee only produces 6 to 8 flakes, little granules of wax in its life.
Oh, wow.
They live about 5 weeks, so the hive turns over. They select. They're amazing animals. But it is a lot of work to produce, and so we hear a lot about bees. We're losing a lot of bees. Well, they truck bees around. One of the reasons we lose a lot of bees is they'll haul bees from here to North Dakota, South Dakota.
Yeah, I was telling you before we started that I was on I-35 up in Kansas about not quite a month ago, and behind a bee truck. And you can
keep the windows rolled up.
You can see them, not 1,000 a second, but you can see a few bees every few seconds flying out of the truck.
There was something going on there. They lock them in where they.
Well, there's a net that's around.
They lock them in, and then there's a net, but they should have been locked in.
But that day,
then those bees will leave here. They'll leave South Dakota. They'll come back here and be robbed in the late summer, early fall, and then those bees will go to South Texas and they'll work the orange groves and they'll work down there.
While it's warm.
Then they'll go to California and go to almonds, and they'll only half those bees are ever coming home.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but they're making new bees every day.
Every 5 weeks. The one queen lays thousands of eggs a day.
But it was astonishing. Once you see something, then you see more of that thing. I forget there's a name for that. Baden-Meinhof.
Yeah, you buy a vehicle, all of a sudden everybody has one.
Yeah, same kind of a thing. And I saw on I-35 that day, and I was only on I-35 for a couple of hours, I saw, I think, 10 bee trucks.
Wow, that is
going
a lot.
From south to north. So obviously there was a crop that needed pollination that they were shipping a lot of those up there for.
Yeah, they try to haul them at night. They definitely have to load them at night, after midnight. Midnight to 5 o'clock is when they work those hives. But I just went through Yellowstone, and they had a semi-load of bees. It was somebody. They said the truck was routed. Nobody takes a shortcut through Yellowstone. There's some truck.
287 does run right through there. So
287 runs through Yellowstone.
Yeah, it does.
Stay on 287.
Just stay on 287.
So I guess this guy forgot to turn left somewhere. So he spilled a semi-load of bees. So they have now like 1.5 million extra bees in Yellowstone because they're out. They're not getting them back.
Feral bees in Yellowstone. Yeah.
So it is, but bees are fascinating. But yeah, it takes a lot of effort. And so the demand for honey consumption has went way up. People wanting local honey for your allergies, wanting honey as a natural sweetener. The bee production has not gone up. And so that's probably a whole episode of
But I don't hear nearly as much about colony collapse as I did 5 to 8 years ago.
Yeah, not near as much. We did. There's a local guy here who lost year before last.
Fungus or something like that?
There's these kind of little. There's mites. There's fungus, so that they get them, and then there is a fungus. But they have these mister. They kind of nebulizers. They nebulize the bees to treat that stuff. But there is a gentleman here, large bee guy in Collin County. I saw a government check that he got, and I thought, what is that about? But I dug into it. He lost hundreds of thousands of hives to this. It was, or tens of thousands. It was a lot. It was a lot. Anyway, here's a good one on my side, man. This is, we disagree on some stuff. We're probably going to agree on this. Lab-grown meat.
So I see, again, whatever short videos you watch, because my attention span's been neutered by the internet, but I've seen people lately, they'll take something apart and they say, look, this is obviously lab-grown meat that they're sneaking into our food supply. And they have no idea the lab-grown meat is still so stinking expensive that, for the most part, especially in domesticated animal production, chicken, beef, pork, that sort of thing, that there's no way that they're just going to put it in your $3.99 a pound chicken breasts. That's just not what they're going to do. Lab-grown meat has not progressed to that point yet.
Yeah, it's experimental. It's in the lab phase, if you would. Now there is one protein product, and there was just big kind of press release on this week before last, and it's called Wild. The trademark name is Wild Type. So this is I don't know if you call this a lab grown meat as much as a synthetic salmon. So they take salmon proteins and some magic sauce, and they put it in a huge stainless steel vat like you brew beer in. And they ferment and gel this. They start adding plant proteins in to thicken it up. And then they dye it and they inject it into a mold and then firm it up in a mold and then sell it out. And it apparently looks quite a bit like salmon, because most of these lab-grown meats I've seen do not entice me whatsoever.
Would they grill that, or what?
And then they're selling that. So that is illegal in 8 states, and Texas is one of them. They can't sell that here. But they're putting that on the menu as wild type salmon. Oh, that sounds like wild caught. So people are buying that on the East Coast and West Coast. I've seen pictures of this on menus, and the consumer does not know what it is. So they can't compete against ground beef, but on an expensive product like salmon, apparently this product is making its way into the marketplace. If you want to buy lab grown, I'm a free market guy. If you want to buy, if you think that's better and better for you, as long as you know what you're in for, God bless you, and you buy that. I have a real problem with kind of sneaking it in there like they're trying to do with this wild type. I think the consumer needs to know this is not the real deal, and that we need to know that. And that's where the legislation and the labeling hasn't caught up with the product.
Well, it's a lot like in different states have fought that different ways, but the plant-based meat alternatives calling themselves meat of some kind.
Yeah.
And that's been legislated out in a few states, but not on a national basis.
Butter, that was in the 60s when the lawsuit was where margarine couldn't call itself anything butter-like. That's where the name, I can't believe it's not butter, comes from, is from the Dairy Farmers of America suing the large margarine producers in the 60s. So this too shall correct, I hope.
I would imagine the market will fix that one way or the other.
Let's see if we can knock out our list.
Why are you rushing me?
Because the clock's ticking.
Oh, that thing. Are AI robotics in agriculture?
AI is everywhere.
To me, that's a two-pronged question.
That's true.
AI and robotics.
Yeah, I agree. That's very true. Very true. So where I'm seeing it, and of course you told me I couldn't talk about regenerative agriculture, didn't have enough time because I'd take the whole hour. But I am seeing the drone technology where we're spraying specific weeds, seeing drone technology, and because with regenerative, we're not saying chemicals are not out of the toolbox. We're just trying to limit their use or limit where we put them. So the most impactful thing I've seen is we're able to fly the fields with a high-level drone, map the field, then go out with another drone and only kill the mesquite trees. So treating thousands of acres, we treat hundreds of acres. We're now seeing drones that can just spray specific weeds. And then I saw a prototype field cultivator that's lasers. So it has It goes really slow, and it's automated, so you just turn it loose and let it
And
run.
it's on the ground.
It's on
not
the
flying.
ground. It's not flying. It's got a hood so that there are lights, and it's got cameras, and it's programmed, and it can tell the difference between the plant and weeds, and it zaps non-desirable plants with a laser.
The whole reason I wanted to ask that question is for you to make laser sounds.
Now, so they should be started, or is it? That'd be like an air sorter. I don't know.
That's exactly what I wanted. Yeah, it's pretty impressive, especially in row crops, because that's where it's going to be able to be utilized first. But I've seen them do the aerial spraying with drones, which means you don't have a crop duster pilot out there flying under your power lines. You know, those guys don't live very long. That's a rough life.
It
so
is.
If we can do a more judicious use of herbicides and pesticides and be able to spot treat things instead of blanket treating a field, I think that's going to be better for everybody.
I don't know if this would come under AI and robotics, but definitely under technology, the new wireless collars, and there are a lot of them out there.
Oh, the virtual
big
fence.
shout out to them. I was just up at Matador a few weeks ago, and back shout to my friends up there. So there's nothing between them and Idaho but God and wind. And Bureau of Land Management, I can't say BLM, I say Bureau of Land Management. Bureau of Land Management, Forestry Service said, we would really like for you to build a fence between you and Idaho. So they need to build about 250 miles of fence. And depending on where that fence was at, it was $50,000 to $100,000 per mile, because you can't go in there with anything but horses and mules. So that was cost prohibitive. So they are putting on thousands and thousands of halter collars. And they're GPS now.
That's the brand name.
That's the brand name. Yeah. That's a brand name. You can look at that. So what that is, they're able to go in and map. So they're now able to intensively rotational graze these cattle.
Because they can move the cattle.
Because they can drop out. But the government is really loving it, because they have these riparian areas, they have these wetland areas where they
want to keep cattle out of there.
They want to keep the cows
Yeah.
out, and it's just hard. And they do try to build some split rail fence and different things. It just doesn't work. They're mapping those out. And now the moose and deer still go in there, but they're keeping the cows out of these areas. And then from the standpoint of those guys, they're able to see where the cows are at. They're able to move them daily. Heat detection, where that means the cow's not pregnant. Now we know.
Yeah, because you can tell by the animal's movements. And just to give
heat, they're now have temperature detection and predator detection. So if something's out there and your cows are all running around crazy, it gives you an alert like, hey, there might be predators.
So we're talking about basically an invisible fence.
An invisible fence
for your cattle.
Makes a beeping sound. Takes a few hours. These cattle really learn different cues. It is amazing how quickly we were there with cattle that only had them on for a few hours, and they'd already learned the cues. It gives them hey, there's over here is new grass for you. Yeah. So pretty amazing technology.
And just full disclosure, some of those do use a mild electric shock as a consequence after the beats.
If you go too far.
If your cows got a little more ear to them, if they got a little more Brahmin to them, then they may need something a little bit more than a beep to keep them in the right spot.
Think that I would like to look at them for children, but apparently that's frowned upon.
Well, I mean, if you buy them from a registered company like that.
Where are my kids? Get back here.
I'm pulling my collar up so the one my wife has on me, it's not quite as visible.
No, my wife makes me wear them on the ankle. Oh, that's good.
Oh, is that your wife? I thought that was the feds.
Yeah. I told you I don't have warrants. Egg color, why does it matter? So people a lot of times ask me, Dr. Abney, why do they dye the cage-free eggs brown? This is a regular question I've seen.
Well, that's the same plant that the chocolate milk comes from the brown cow.
Correct. Right? It's the chocolate egg plant. So the egg is not dyed brown. Different breeds of chickens, not species, different breeds of chicken lay different colored eggs. You have Americanas, they'll lay, that's where your green eggs come from. And they have Easter eggers, which is Americana cross breed. Anyway, my wife is an expert on all this stuff. I do not want to be a chicken expert. But I can tell you that the white eggs are from Leghorns, which is the most common. They're a very consistent layer. They lay a lot of eggs. They're easy to raise. The reason that to differentiate themselves in the marketplace for cage-free eggs or free-range eggs, people were using more heritage breed like a Rhode Island Red or that lays a brown egg or some other hybrid crosses that are still prolific layers, but to differentiate themselves really, because you can have a free-range white chicken. How the chicken is fed is what affects the nutrition of the egg. So whether you're feeding them better, right, but the color is the breed. Another reason I think a lot of people, if you have chickens actually out running around, that white chicken, so everything eats chicken. So if you want to have a camouflage chicken, the white chicken, a hawk at 200 feet in the air may not see the brown chicken hiding in the grass, but they'll see the white chicken hiding in the grass, and they'll swoop down and pick up dinner to go. So everything eats chicken, and so the color of the egg is determined by the breed and the crossbreeding, not how they're fed, what they're fed. So it doesn't affect nutritional quality. Nutritional quality is what the chicken eats.
It's pretty interesting too if you think about it. Over the last 50 years, there's probably a time 50 years ago when a white shelled egg would have been more desirable.
My mother still desires a white egg. Those dirty old brown eggs.
Because brown eggs were thought of as being just yard birds.
Home raised eggs.
Home raised, and not as clean and that sort of thing. But now the pendulum is swung back the other way to where it's a branding opportunity like you're talking about, where people have thought, oh, well, this egg is brown. It must have come from an egg that somebody petted every day and had a name for it, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
Which is not also the case.
Not the case.
If it's in a grocery store, it didn't have a name.
That is correct.
That's a pretty good
That's
term.
a pretty good bet. That's a pretty safe bet. That's better than Vegas for sure.
Yeah. Good odds. Good odds.
What's your next one? You have any more?
Are frozen vegetables less nutritious than fresh vegetables?
You know what? I've seen a little bit on this. I got to dig in my way back brain. So we didn't prep these. They threw these questions. I've actually seen some data where frozen fruit and vegetables were better for you than stuff from the store because, again, don't pick me apart. What I've seen is that the really ripe stuff is not going to be able to go through the cycle time to go to the store. So they can and freeze and that. The stuff that's not quite ripe, that'll ripen on the way to the store. So I've seen some arguments that the stuff that's flash frozen was more ripe, was more developed, and might be more nutritionally dense than the stuff that ripened on the way.
Yeah, I would say the same thing, and it depends on how it's frozen. Almost everything these days is IQF, is individually quick frozen. It goes into some sort of a bath that allows it to get very cold very quickly.
Very quick.
They're not exactly dipping it in liquid nitrogen, but they're when you look at the amount of weight that has to be processed in a day in one of those plants, and the amount of heat that has to be drawn off of those, the ability to use a liquid like that is really valuable. So, for instance, it's not a vegetable, I don't think, but shrimp, that may be a vegetable in some cultures.
For me, yeah.
It's not beef, I know that, but they are still pretty tasty. Really even better wrapped in bacon. But if you take that shrimp and you individually quick freeze those shrimp and thaw it out, it's almost indistinguishable from a shrimp that was fresh.
Yeah, this isn't
caught.
the old frozen. So the faster something freezes, whether this is meat, I tell people freeze fast, thaw slow.
Yeah.
So if you're freezing beef, you want a blast chiller. Do not put it in the old deep freeze. That air doesn't move around, the old chest freezers.
Yeah.
The way to freeze meat is put it up there where the cold air comes right out in your freezer. So where there's blast chillers.
Faster you freeze something, the smaller the ice crystals are. And the ice crystals are small.
Yes.
You get less cellular damage in them.
Yes.
And that's what changes the texture and the flavor and all that stuff.
And that's why those flash frozen IQF frozen shrimp are pretty much like a fresh shrimp. And, I know we're going to get into this on the episode about food is seasonal. Everything is seasonal. And if we want to live a non-seasonal lifestyle, we've got to lean into these technologies to grow it now and save it for later.
Well, and you got to think too, if you decide that you're not going to eat a certain vegetable because you can't get it fresh, what are you giving up from a nutritional standpoint, from a fiber standpoint, from a magnesium or potassium or whatever you want to think about there?
Because we've definitely, again, but we talked about GMOs earlier. The tomato you get off the shelf at the grocery store is not the tomato my wife's growing in the backyard garden.
It can't be. It just can't.
Because it would that tomato turns to mush on our kitchen counter in 3 to 4 days. It would never make it through the grocery store. So,
not to mention that, and please apologize to your wife for what I'm about to say. Her tomatoes may not necessarily be as visually appealing as, again, we're back to consumer choice. We're going to do what the American consumer wants us to do in agriculture. And so when you look at those heirloom tomatoes, lumpy and they're misshapen a lot of times, and they don't make a nice hamburger slice for a
it was like Texas oranges.
sandwich.
Texas oranges have freckles and off-colored skin, but everyone wants that beautiful southern perfect color California orange.
And if you're in the
but
grocery
Texas
store,
oranges are better.
you're going to pick that one up.
Texas orange. Texas orange is a better orange. Go Texas. So So my last question is, any kind of ties right in this. Any top tips for safety with processing and packaging? So I don't know specifically what that means, if that's processing things at home. I think definitely in the packaging world, huge study came out week before last about microplastics in avocado oil. Beef tallow is less carcinogenic than avocado oil. The way that they process it, it picks up a lot of microplastics, and then all the top brands are sitting on the shelf in a plastic bottle, and the acidity of avocado oil is breaking down microplastics. So here we are out here. People are trying
what's
to be
that
healthy.
shirt made out of?
Yeah. So thank you for bringing that up. And even though I do love the guys at Farrell, I am migrating my entire closet to 100% cotton. Go American Cotton Farmers, future episode. I am migrating to 100% cotton shirts.
Are you scared of microplastics?
I am.
Why?
But because the average American that I've seen has about a half a teaspoon to a teaspoon worth of microplastics stored in their brain that you've picked up from everything from the clothes you're wearing to the food that you're eating.
I've seen some of those studies. I've seen a couple of those studies that have been debunked because they didn't do a great job on their data collection, and they actually contaminated the sample, and they ended up having some kind of amount of microplastic.
And I do love these. Farrell puts a micro liner in their shirts. I do appreciate that. I can just tell you that at 6 o'clock at the end of the day, I don't have near the brain fog with the cotton shirt, and I swore it was just in my head, and so I've just been doing this little kind of what works for me. Maybe doesn't work.
Are you familiar with the placebo effect?
I'm telling you that it's I thought.
I mean, maybe I'm not too bright to begin with, and I just don't notice the difference. But
We'll see. I think that again, in the history of the world, we're only this far along. I'm just trying to support American agriculture and get everybody back to growing cotton and wool. I got some wool socks now. They are amazing.
Yeah.
Who knew?
What about lanolin poisoning?
Lanolin poisoning? Oh, they took all the lanolin. I washed them 3 times. It's fine.
I don't know if you can wash all the lanolin.
I think eventually you can.
You've ever ran around a wet,
so
wet
I
sheet.
definitely think the back to the processing. Thaw things slowly.
I may not be done
Don't
with
microwave
microplastics yet.
things in plastic. Oh, I don't know, but I was trying to get us back onto my last question. Yours was the last question. Was our frozen vegetables nutritionist?
Yeah.
So safety with processing packaging. We use a lot of glass at our house. We're definitely trying to limit our plastic exposure, especially with hot foods.
So I can get my opinion out on this.
Please.
And maybe we'll generate a comment or two. If you disagree with one of us,
Come on
and comment below. Or disagree with both of us. That could certainly be possible. So for the majority of Americans who are obese and who are headed for diabetes and who are headed for heart disease, etc.
A tablespoon of pecan oil per day.
Thanks for answering the question I didn't ask.
We'll get that diabetes off your
Do
plate.
you believe in your heart of hearts that microplastics are a major issue in health in America today?
I think that the bucket runneth over and many things got poured into the bucket. I think microplastics are a piece of that. I think that they can be in there as they're could be affecting the way our bodies are processing other things. You know what? Too much time on the couch and lack of movement and low quality protein sources and too many carbohydrates probably leading that charge.
That was my point. That was my point. But if we live long enough, we're going to die of something, right?
I think there's been like 8 people ever got off Earth without dying. I'd have to go back through the Bible and figure out. There's only like 8 people that transcended, but everybody else had to die.
For a second, we left somebody on the moon that I didn't know about.
Oh yeah, well, not that I know of, but
Russians
The Russians will leave you in space, but there are many things. So
I think
many things.
As part of a bigger conversation, we talk about nutrient density of foods and we talk about carcinogenics in foods, et cetera. But really, when we look at the macro size of that, what's really driving your health? It really comes down to the volume of calories you eat, how much you move. If you eat less and move more, you're going to be better off. That's just all there is to it. And so I think we can attack more than one problem at a time. And I'm not saying that microplastics don't have some kind of an effect on things, but to me, we as a society, we want to chase one thing. We're really good at chasing one thing. We're not really good at multitasking.
Yeah,
and I'm afraid that the microplastics things are going to distract us from larger issues like obesity and like heart disease and artery disease and that sort of thing. And that's my fear when we talk about those things, because it's new, and we in America love shiny new stuff to talk about. And the only thing we love more than shiny new stuff to talk about and buy is shiny new stuff to be afraid of.
Fear sells, definitely fear sells, and people want to have a magic bullet. They don't want. They would love for it to be someone else's problem. And you know what's wrong with the car? Probably who made the gas. It's not that I don't change the oil. It's not that I run over all the curbs. It's not that I've hit everything. I've hit every one of my neighbors' mailboxes. No, you know what's wrong is I should have been buying 93 octane instead of 87 octane gas. Exactly. That's the problem. That's the problem. It's not all the other things. So it's not the lack of maintenance and care. It has to be the fuel. The fuel is absolutely important, but I do think the quality of fuel that people are or are not putting in their bodies in this country, and we look at the amount of simple carbohydrates, and I have a nutritionist I really want to bring on, and you as a nutritionist, I tell you this all the time. To wrap this up, to talking about this, to make things fat, would it be fair to say that your job is to make things fat for a living?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you feed animals fat to make them fat?
Nope. Feed them starch.
Wait a minute. You're telling me carbohydrates are what you use to make things fat? Because my mama thinks if she eats fat, she don't get fat.
I can go further than that. All the cattle that I've ever fed have been on a vegan diet.
Snap. You mean they're on a plant-based, high carbohydrate, moderate fat, medium protein diet?
Well, I myself am a second order vegan. Because I only eat animals that eat plants. So,
vegan consumer, yeah. So I can't wait. We a big show coming on nutrition, and I think that it's going to be the can't wait to get Sarah Keenan on here, because the presentation she gave that I saw just really with your nutritionist brain. I know you nutritionist brain. You already going to know this. Like, it's just like, hey, people, let me help you not be fat by feeding you in a way to not make you fat. She has agricultural background, so she understands that. And she has a health journey that got her where she at. So that's going to be great in the future. But hey, this is our attempt at a speed round. We really didn't do very good.
Well,
we rabbit trailed.
What an awesome group of listeners and
we appreciate
viewers
all
that sent that stuff
questions.
in. I hope they send us more comments and more questions. However, whatever avenue they decide to do that on, whether it's on YouTube or Spotify or Apple Podcasts.
And our first ever in the studio with this guest that we did not allow to get on camera and talk,
because this would have been a 4-hour
never
podcast.
got in any words.
Yeah.
Who works for a large family-owned agricultural monopoly that we will not discuss the name of that group.
Don't ask, don't tell.
Don't ask, don't tell. But they are the original of something. We don't know what they are the original of, but they are the original. And we're glad the Hobbit could come by and hang out with us today.
And his lovely wife.
And his lovely wife.
Who makes bad decisions, but we still love her.
We love her because she makes him bearable.
She does that. It's all her job.
Well, hey, we're going out there. Oh, my God. Speaking of things that make life bearable, Redwood Empire. So this is the Duckhorn Wine family out of California. They were nice enough to come by here several years ago and promote this product to us. And you know what I love about these guys? All of their bottles, they have John Muir artwork on them. So they're all the largest redwood trees. So this is Pipe Dream. That's actually the name of either a sequoia or a redwood.
Pipe Dream. Is this going to make me fail a urine test or anything?
Not in Colorado. You know, I heard you love a great barrelman last weekend. He said, "What happens in Las Vegas stays in Las Vegas. What happens in Colorado stays in your system for 30 days."
That's a good point.
So, cheers to another one in the can. Keep those comments coming so we can talk more about the things that you want to hear us talk about. answer questions. And hey, we've been kind of gloves on for too long. We're finally getting to some stuff we can disagree on, but we can disagree agreeably,
respectfully.
And future episode is some things that I talked about last episode about changing my viewpoint on nitrates. Maybe we can change each other's viewpoint on some other things. Definitely have things to learn. But hey, America, keep buying American products because we need you to buy American. Farmers and ranchers, keep doing what you're doing because I believe in you. America trusts you, and the world is counting on you. Until next week, we're going to hang out in a one red light town with my buddy Brad Good. We'll see y'all next week.
Thanks,
Cheers.
folks.
Yeah, man, hanging around here can sometimes be such a drag. When you need a little rain, seem like that sun gonna shine. So from back roads at 80 to the backside of 45 in my life, I was running like hell just to have run tonight. I was running downhill down a long and lonesome highway, with the light up ahead getting closer, come every mile. That white line always seemed to be going my way. Took me miles and miles from a town with one red light. Yeah, that white line always seemed to be going my way. Yeah, took me miles and miles from a town with one red light.